Why, hello there. It's week four turning into week five. I'd like to go over what happened in week four. We had a really pretty good week, actually, in week four. If we take a look at the history here, we went 11 and 5 last week. And that's right here 11 and 5. And not only did we go 11 and 5, but we had some pretty interesting games that we managed to predict correctly. What I'm going to show you here what happened last week, and then we're going to get into this week's picks. So, one of my two locks of the week lost, first of all. Jacksonville lost to the Jets in overtime. Don't ever put your faith in Jacksonville. That's the lesson learned there. However, the one I actually chose in the file, and you can see that the real lock of the week I had of the two was Philadelphia. That's the one I chose for my pool and the one that we put down here in picks. Philadelphia did manage to pull it out. I knew the Chargers cannot win a game, and that's why we went with them. We'll have more discussions of Philadelphia this week, too, because they got another game that's kind of interesting. So I don't know what happened with Tennessee. So Tennessee gave up, like 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns? A ton of touchdowns, at least 7. And they got destroyed, so they were also heavily favored. 2 out of the top 3 favored in this file lost. Then it got better from there. Tennessee and Jacksonville lost. Shocker, right? Tampa Bay managed to beat the Giants. The Giants, man, they are terrible. Right along the lines with predictions there. So Seattle beat Indianapolis, predictable. The Redskins lost to the Chiefs. Finally got a Redskins game right here. Just let the numbers take over. Chiefs managed to pull something out and get a free touchdown late. The Raiders and the Broncos, I discussed this game in the video. The Raiders did not win, and I had them favored in the file, but the Broncos at home are tougher up in Mile High, and I got to figure that in. Kind of knew that could go that way. Packers beat the Bears like they should. Steelers beat the Ravens like they should because the Ravens are no good. The Arizona does beat the Niners, who are terrible. The Rams beat the Cowboys. I had that one in here. That was interesting. A lot of people had Dallas. Atlanta and Buffalo game. Buffalo's defense is solid. I kind of knew this was going to be close. Ended up being, 23-17, but Buffalo with the win, right? That game was in Atlanta, so something to watch out for. The Bengals beat the Browns, had that. Panthers over the Patriots. Notice I had that one. Nobody had that. If you were looking at that, the numbers were saying the Patriots were going to lose because they have no defense, and the Panthers put up 33 to beat the Patriots 30. So that pretty much happened the way it was supposed to. And then the Vikings and the Lions, that's kind of a toss-up. I do kind of like the Lions a little more than they're being respected in the stats. So, watch for them. And then, of course, Saints and Dolphins was a toss-up, but the Saints managed to crush them. I think that game was in London, right? So, anyway, that's what happened last week. Let's move into this week, all right? Because I did a little more work on the file. You can see over here, in this area, I have different weights for each one of these things. So there's a weight in the formula that's determining the wind strength over here. This wind strength. It's being driven by these percentages which are related to these categories. So I'm putting a lot of weight on the difference in number of wins that each team has. I'm putting a lot of weight on their defensive rating because that's been a pretty telling statistics, the combined defensive rating. Little less on the offensive rating, even less on points per game, and even fewer less 5% on the margin of victory. So it's heavily weighted on wins and defensive rating, and because that historically will give you 84% if you go back in time and kind of reverse engineer this. So that's how we are. Even though our actual numbers are over here about how we're doing. We, like I said, I got to get you to 75%. I got to get 3 out of 4. We're not there yet, but we're starting to get closer. So, because we had a terrible week 3, but we had a much better last week of 11 and 5. We got to start doing 12 and 4 or better, and we're up to 62%. And we're going to continue. And I expect to have another good week this week. So, and we got to start getting 12 or 4 or better, which will happen with this file as the season goes on. So, let's take a look at week 5. All right. We're going to go down the line, and then I'm going to do some more work on this file throughout the week. So if you're going to be purchasing this file, and I see you going through the website and purchasing the file. We send you the updated version, which will be different from this, but we're going to kind of do a preview of this week 5 right now and go over what we have. So let's start out with what looks like Arizona versus the Eagles. Eagles heavily favored. Eagles are like 3-1. Arizona very iffy this year. I like that a lot. That's fine. Raiders are heavily favored over the Ravens. I like that too. That makes sense. Ravens are pretty awful. Cincinnati is going to get smoked by Buffalo. That makes a lot of sense. Buffalo's defense is good. Cincinnati's defense is not awful, but Buffalo's going to outscore them. They show they can do that. Buffalo's going to win that game. I'm all right. So that's contemplating lock of the week right there. All right, Buffalo is definitely a big game. Carolina, Detroit. For some reason, Carolina is favored slightly. I don't like Carolina necessarily being favored in here, even after they just beat the Patriots. That is really truly a toss-up. I'm hesitant to go with Carolina. I think Detroit might win that at home. Vikings should beat the Bears. Should beat the Bears. This 42% is a little inflated, though, because the Bears did manage to beat the Steelers, and this is at home again. This is not a true 42%. I think that the Vikings should win this game, but the Bears are a lot closer to this being a toss-up than you think. As we said, Buffalo's going to beat Cincinnati. The Jets and the Browns. So the Jets are heavily favored over the Browns because the Jets have won a game. They just beat Jacksonville. This game's in Cleveland. Cleveland's going to have to win a game at some point. I don't like this 67% here. These are two awful teams. And it's skewed because the Browns haven't won a game yet. So be careful here. The Jets could win this game, but the Browns could win this game too because the Jets are terrible. So definitely stay away from that game altogether. I don't know who's going to win that game. Dallas and Green Bay. Green Bay's favored. This game's in Dallas. I think Green Bay should be favored. That's fine. We talked about Detroit and Carolina. Go with Green Bay. Chiefs are heavily favored over the Texans. God, that sounds like a lock of the week, doesn't it? The way Kansas City's playing. Definitely love that. I'm contemplating going Kansas City over Buffalo as my lock of the week. We're going to look further down the line, see which one to take there. Miami and Tennessee. Tennessee lets up like a ton of points last game, right? They let up like 57. Miami has no offense, but their defense is not terrible. Actually, Miami's defense looks a whole lot better than Tennessee's. Miami could win this game, so be careful here. Tennessee let you down last week, but they were they're real iffy, Tennessee, and I don't like that game. That game can go either way. It could be just a slop fest either way. We talked about Vikings and the Bears. Let's talk about the Patriots and the Bucks. So the Patriots are only a 5-point favorite over the Bucks. You know what to do in these Patriots-Bucks games? Look at the predicted score of 27-28. The Patriots, as before mentioned, have no defense. Tampa Bay just beat the Giants, can score a little bit at least. I would take the over if you're finding the over in this game. I don't know who's going to win. Probably the Patriots are going to win this, but a lot of points are going to be scored again. And I think that's from here on out for the rest of the season. There's going to be a lot of points scored in Patriots games. Then there's the Giants, who are an underdog against the Chargers because both of those teams are 0-4. So if both of them are 0-4, what do you do? What's the comparison? The Giants have fewer. They lose by a little more. The Giants have slightly better defense than the Chargers. Slightly. Everything else is in the Chargers' favor. Yeah, I do think the Chargers are going to. These two teams that both can't win. Somebody's got to win. The file says that it's going to be the Chargers, so let's go with that. Jets heavily favored over Cleveland. Like I said, I don't like what that's showing. That's really skewed. I guess I'd stay away from that game entirely, even though the file says Jets. But if you had to go pick someone, I guess go with the Jets. But man, I don't like it because the Jets are not a good team. But they do have 2 wins, don't they? All right, so Raiders and Ravens, yes. Now Oakland has not been playing spectacular lately. And even though Baltimore's been playing terrible, you can see that, wow, the Raiders are better than them in every way. All right, I guess the Raiders are good here. I do like the Eagles over Arizona. I do. I think they're a much better team. So I can't pick them because I've already picked Eagles once, but that's a good pick right there. Steelers and Jacksonville. Now, how is that coming out to 0? That's interesting. So it doesn't give a clear favorite. Let's try to extend this out and see if there's a slight favorite that it's picking up. Yes, it is. Pittsburgh is the slight favorite over the Jags. That does make sense. So it's so super slight though. Why? Because the Jacksonville occasionally has some offense, and yeah, look at that comparison. And Jacksonville's defense is apparently better than the Steelers. That's surprising. So look at how close that game is. Given that probably the Steelers will be favored in that game, keep that in mind that Jacksonville's probably going to keep that close, if not win that game. That's really interesting. 49ers favored at the Colts. Now the 49ers, I believe they haven't won a game, right? Yeah, the 49ers have not won a game yet, somehow managed to be favored against the Colts. That's amazing. That's because they have they don't lose by as much, and their defense is stronger. And they're off. Wow, Indianapolis is just murdered, but they're terrible. But they beat Cleveland, right? That's the only team they played that could beat. So the Niners are probably going to get a win this game. I like that 12%, actually. I do think the Niners are going to win on the road because Indianapolis is just awful. And then Seattle and the Rams. You can see the Rams are favored against Seattle. That's another one where that's not probably the way that the lines are going to show up. Seattle might be favored in that. But here, we like the Rams, so keep that in mind. I do like the Rams. The Rams fairly predictable, but not, but they're stronger than you think. And Seattle, although Seattle did just take down Indianapolis, but Indianapolis, as before mentioned, is atrocious. So we talked about the Bucs and Patriots, that being a lot of points, I think, in that game. And then I think Miami can beat Tennessee. I don't like picking this game. It gives you Tennessee as the win, but I don't like looking into that. So Chargers over the Giants. All right. Locks of the week are going to be, I like the Bills over the Bengals. I like the Chiefs over the Texans. I think the Chiefs are my lock of the week. Do I want to do that? Can't do the Eagles. Could do the Raiders over the Ravens. I do think I like the Raiders over the Ravens there. I like Philly, Arizona a lot. Jacksonville could get sneaky on Pittsburgh, even though I just lost with Jacksonville last week. Locks of the week are just those two. Buffalo and Kansas City and Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is really going to beat Arizona. So those three, I think I'm going to choose Kansas City. Do I want to do that? Houston, let's just do a little check on this game real quickly and say, looking at everything and looking at that Kansas City game, 56% win strength. They have 2 more wins. Their margin of victory is 5.8 points greater. They score 3 more points per game. Their defense is better. Their offense is better. Yeah, and they've been solid. That's my lock of the week. That's what it is. So going with Kansas City, and here's your list of everything that's going on again. If you want to purchase a file, go to kenbraverman.com or follow the link in the description, and may all your picks be winning.